And good morning, everybody. The purpose of my presentation this morning is to put some regional context around some of the property drivers. So far, what we've heard this morning is pretty much performance benchmarking on Vietnam's property classes. What I'd like to do is look at how Vietnam performs in a regional context to see how competitive we are and see how we present. So first of all, as far as capital flows go, this is a chart of capital flows above, real estate capital flows above $2.5 million. Global capital flows. So what we're seeing is Asia Pac, previously with capital flows being a net flow into Asia Pacific. Capital flows are now flowing very, very strongly and have taken over enormously from the west to the east. Now, what are those capital flows made up of? They are the inflows into Asia Pacific, with no surprises here. Oops. The inflows into Asia Pacific are predominantly, the new surprise is the Arab Emirates and America. The outflows that we, no surprises, Australia, Singapore, China, these are the new ones that we hope we will see, that Japan and Malaysia will increase. World Economic Forum is a wonderful, oh sorry, I've got a little bit of auto advance there. So the WEF produces a wonderful Global Competitiveness Index. This index is over 100 different variables across 12 dimensions. It's been going for 30 years. It is really, really a very, very good index. What it ranks is our country's competitiveness. And we can see that Vietnam has moved up 5 in 2013 to a rank of 70. This is the spider chart that shows you where we're weak and where we're strong. The increase is mostly due to a better macro environment in Vietnam. We do have a little bit of a low score around here on our institutions, which is in accounting standards, auditing, those sort of things. We do score very, very well on health and primary education. I then had a look at the WEF's relationship in ASEAN and the ASEAN nations, and what we have is the Asian Economic Community in 2015, very, very quickly advancing, and I think it's being underestimated, the impact of the Asian Economic Community. So that's going to happen in 2015, and therefore if we have a look across the ASEAN nations, they are very, very spread in their ranking from 2 down to 138. There's only 148 countries in this survey. And we can see a very wide spread. What will happen as we progress is that the influence of the higher ranked nations will spread to the lower, and then we can have a gradual uplift and higher scores throughout. As I said, AEC, the Asian Economic Community, is happening. Over 80% of the initiative have been implemented. That's happening in 2015. I think that's going to be a very, very big driver for a region, the Southeast Asian region, in a very competitive area. Moving through, just some property drivers. What we've mentioned on some of these, and I'll just go very quickly into retail, I apologise for this, and hospitality. So, looking at retail, I asked my colleagues in Ho Chi Minh why they thought the retail environment, why they thought the retail environment was very poor, and they said, well, it wasn't as good as last year. But what we can see is that I think these scores are a little bit overrated. We should probably be somewhere about here. But what we had was, when we have a look at our retail real growth last year, was the second highest in Asia. When we cross that with our GDP, then we're suddenly looking to be a very, very good retail environment. We do have some consumer confidence to rise, and I read in the paper this morning that is happening. And so the idea, once the consumer confidence unwinds a little bit, then I think the retail environment will progress very, very well. Having a look at tourism, this is the hospitality one. The reason I'm looking at this is that hospitality in Da Nang and Nha Trang has turned around very, very quickly recently. And what I'd like to do is highlight why this has happened. So in 2013, there's a global record of nearly 1.1 billion tourists, almost 52 million more. tourists than the previous year. This is tracking very, very well. We're going to have around a 5% trend next for 2014, which is higher than the long-term trends. In 2013, 10% of that growth came from Southeast Asia. For Vietnam, what is key is that these two source markets, China and Russia, are very, very prevalent in our domestic tourism. We can see them occurring. So we expect very, very big growth. Just a bit of a throwaway statistic that we're going to need over 13,000 planes in Asia over the next 20 years. What I've got here is a chart that is tracking tourism numbers as well as receipts. We can see here that we've got the Asian economic crisis, we have SARS, and then we have the recent GFC. Over 2014-15, we have none of those influences. So we are very much anticipating very, very strong growth in tourism numbers. Let's convert that to our local context of Da Nang and Nha Trang, and we can see that our numbers have picked up very quickly. So these are the internationals, these are the domestics, internationals, domestics. And so we can see that very, very quickly they have jumped up. But my biggest question to everybody in the room, we know that international tourism arrivals certainly help 4- and 5-star hotels, and domestic tourists generally are 3-star hotels. And what we can see here in Canoa, particularly for Nha Trang, look at that increase in domestic tourists. It's enormous. So there's an enormous potential coming from this tourism industry. It has turned around the fortunes of Da Nang and Nha Trang very quickly over a year. It is very reactive and it happens very quickly. So the performance in those hotels is very good now, and we expect that that will continue. Savills, this a paper from our hotels group that it is indicating the health of the tourism and hotel market. So we're down 60 basis points, 60 bips on the yields to 5.2%. That's a pretty sharp yield for a prime trophy hotel. And what that's saying to me is that there's very, very strong demand for hotels within the region. Around the World in Dollars and Cents is another Savills publication. What this publication does is have a look at the ultra-high net worth individuals and where they're spending their money. An ultra-high net worth individual is someone with over 30 million or more ready to drop. So we've had a look at those. Where are they spending their money and what's it going to mean for the future? So we believe that the highest rate of growth in property purchases from ultra-high net worth individuals will be in Asia. And there's a very simple reason for that, is that this is Asia, the area with the greatest amount of ultra-high net worth individuals that have made their money from property. And so they will continue to invest in property. The thing that is lacking within Asia is the retreat and leisure market that caters to these super upper echelons. And so we can see that there will be a very strong growth in that retreat and leisure market to cater people. Finally, just some takeouts on the real estate market and what's happening over the year and what the influences have been. Lawyers, accountants, anyone in financial services is now playing in the property arena. The reason for that is that we've had some quantitative easing measures throughout Asia, globally. They're now starting to come to an end. We're anticipating interest rate rises. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon and trying to get a clip of the property. As that QE, quantitative easing, is eased and retracted and interest rates go up, then we might see that there are some pricing pressures, particularly in Asia. Asian markets are looking to get to the West. They want to have exposure to mature markets, long-term capital growth, whereas the West want to come to the East to get a slice of that growth in the property markets. Protectionism is starting to occur. It's always been there. It gets relaxed through policy and back and forward. It's quite elastic, but we're starting to see that occur in Hong Kong, Singapore, and some of these other markets. Areas of opportunity, as I mentioned before, are the retail, hospitality, and logistics. We see great opportunities through those subclasses, very much opportunistic property investments, and particularly we see some really good cause of confidence in Southeast Asia. Lastly, Feng Shui. We're at the beginning of the year, so it's probably a good idea to have a look at Feng Shui and how it's going to track for the year. So we're in the horse year, and we've also got wood. So what we see is generally some pretty bad Feng Shui, pretty dull and pretty boring for horse years as far as property and financial markets go. However, the last time we had a wood horse with wood, then the hands performed very, very well. So let's hope that we have another year like this and less of the dull stuff.